Hey everyone, it's your old pal Mike. I wanted to share a clip from Stephen Alonzo. He recently had a debate with Will Duffy on Will Duffy's channel, and I thought he did a phenomenal job. And what was interesting about the interview is I noticed the vast majority of the interview Will spent on trying to personally discredit Stephen and his university rather than absorbing any of the information he was being given or, seeking to investigate Stephen's understanding on his modeling through his app and his accounting of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. He did basically what I saw him do with Joe Hanvey, where it wasn't so much listening to Joe Hanvey's explanation of how he could model a 24-hour sun using basically firmament or dome-based optics, and instead really tried to just attack and discredit Joe's character, which was just, to me, it's really odd because, I mean, none of these guys, Steven or Joe, started throwing in Will's face that, hey, you have a financial institution that was giving out financial advice, and you have all sorts of personal, or I should say, alleged personal lawsuits against you and your financial institution. So, they could throw things at Will of that nature, but I noticed that neither of them did that, but Will spent the majority of the time trying to discredit Steven, which is a really weird tactic. Like I always use with him, it's kind of disingenuous. But you're going to see in this clip here that Steven gives a great response to Will's questioning. This is just a clip from the interview, and I'll link the interview in the description. And now, just remember this interview and other such instances where people have given Will answers to the questions he has. But go forward. If you watch Will's videos, which I don't really recommend, but if you do, you'll see him repeatedly illustrate situations as though flat earthers don't have any answer for what he documented down in Antarctica, which is absolutely not true, and people from the community keep giving him various answers. In fact, I'll link a video I did where he did the same thing, where he was saying that there's no predictions that the globe makes that can be falsified, and no flat earthers ever given him one. Even though in the video I'll link that I did when I interviewed Will, I clearly gave him a couple examples involving the moon that absolutely debunk the globe model Earth's predictions. So when he makes statements like that, or he makes statements that, oh yeah, this completely disproves flat Earth, just know that he's not being honest, because people have come forward to him with answers to his questions from a biblical, cosmological perspective, from a geocentric stationary plane. And I'm not saying Will has to agree, because he clearly doesn't, but what's dishonest is him always painting the scenario as though nobody from our perspective or our community has answers for what he's provided. And that's just not true. It's an absolute dishonest way to present what is going on. Rather than him analyzing the information he gets told in the explanations that people give him, he seems to just let it go in one ear and out the other and pretend like it had zero validity, which I don't know. I don't know what to say on that, but it's just a statement of his character, I guess, in a sense. But just realize as we go forward as a movement, as a community, and as those just seeking the truth of creation that the Most High created, you're going to see individuals like him that will ignore anyone who has a response and just continue with things and statements that are just not true. So I'm going to share this clip. I'll be interviewing Steven tomorrow, actually, which is going to be awesome. But just take a listen to his responses, and just remember what I said going forward as Will continues on his war path against flat Earth and biblical cosmology. Blessings, everyone.
My work speaks for itself. So I'm not a big credentials guy. I don't want you to believe me because I have a PhD. Believe me because of the science and math, the exercise science, the proof of the results. That's all. Don't ever believe anyone because of a degree or a credential. That's just receipts for tuition.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you still consider yourself a doctor?
Oh, yeah. So to have a doctorate, you have to contribute original work, make an original contribution. Now, if I didn't, then I would feel shameful for referring to myself as that. And to clarify, I'm not a medical doctor. So I don't want anyone to think I'm a medical doctor. A doctorate degree means you make an original contribution to the field. And for me, that was the Firmament Trackers app. Multi-observer software is something that was never done before. As you see, the best globe model possible is what I have above me, and you can only have one observer at a time. So my original contribution, which allowed me to earn my PhD, my doctorate in September of last year, was this software. And I'm really proud of it. You can download it for free, test out the basic features. We have many versions of it. So this is why I earned my doctorate, because even globe software cannot do multiple observers in real time. They got to do pre-made renders like in Blender, where my software is real time, which is insane that it took a flat earther to do this.
Yeah. Now, I should tell you, Stephen, this is an area, I'm not a doctor. This is not an area I'm very familiar with, but I did have some people contact me when I announced our debate and I made the thumbnail, and they pushed back at you referring to yourself as a doctor. They said that it was disrespectful to people who are actually doctors, who actually got their PhD. And so I do think we should be careful in arguing that if we make an app that's new or novel, that we can call ourselves a doctor.
Well, it depends what field it's in. So I'm not a doctor of philosophy or a doctor of biology. It's geocentric cosmology. So no one should feel offended unless they feel like they work in the same field as I do. And it's not just a new app, it's a whole new entire concept. No one's ever done this before. Like, I don't even think you can do it on a globe. To have multiple observers on a globe, I don't think it's possible, but I'm willing to admit that it's more of a software limitation rather than a modeling issue. But yeah, it's not just an app, it's a whole new way to look at astronomy. No one has ever been able to plot like infinite observers. Let me just see what we have. No, not this one here. Yeah, so the software is just so cool. And that's why with the software, I became so confident that there has to be a 24-hour sun. And I built this myself. So I was able to test what works, what doesn't. And yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you credit. You've done a good job. I think in the past, I'm going to apologize for something. In the past, I accused you of stealing Walter Bislin's model.
You did.
But the reality is, it appears you have not done that. Rather, you have built on top of it and made it better, so to speak.
Well, not even built on top of it. They're entirely different languages. So he did his in JavaScript, and I did mine in TypeScript. So JavaScript, the best way to describe it is we have objects, and it's handled completely different. So I actually don't even understand Walter Bislin's code, and it makes no sense to use someone else's. Anyone who works in software development, like I do professionally, that's where most of my money comes from, software contracts. And that's why I'm very secretive about what I do with Flat Earth and what I reveal to people. But anyone who knows software development knows it's easier to code your own code base than trying to learn someone else's code base. And I've been doing software development for like over 10 years now.
Okay, cool. That is what I had prepared to talk to you about. I do think the issues in the math on the flights and the South Pole, the geographic South Pole, and the single South Celestial Pole directly above it are things that you're going to have to work on. And maybe, as you told me in the past, if I'm right on those, that your model is falsified. So maybe you'll tell me it's falsified.
Yes, but sadly, it's not going to mean Flat Earth, though, is over. There's other communities like the Awake Souls. They have 20,000 subscribers, more influence than me. And they have that model that you showed me with that picture of the stereographic model. They can't develop it out themselves. It'll have to be me who ends up making it for them. But they have it conceptualized, and they have a large following that really believe it. So it would falsify my model. You're right. The Firmament Trackers app would have to be redone or rebranded, the AE model wouldn't work if what you're saying is true. If it's actually possible to go to 90 degrees, look straight up and see it at 90 degrees and not 89.99, that's a huge problem for my model. But that's what's great about science. We form hypotheses that we attempt to falsify, and we move forward to a more refined understanding.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything you want to say in closing?
No, I think we had a really good discussion. In general, I haven't actually looked at the comments. I have this in full screen. But any flat earthers who are wondering like about giving up flat earth, it seems to be now because all the communities are now just, we have no model, earth is measured flat, we make no claims. But that's wrong. We have to make claims, we have to make predictions. And I encourage people to study like flat earth math. There's a reason that most of us in my group knew there'd be a 24-hour sun. You know, these are 90-degree right angles against the flat earth. And go outside, look at the sun. You know, I live in Belize. My north celestial pole is 17 degrees from my horizon. Well, if the sun's behind me, I can start making predictions about places like Union Glacier. So I encourage people to look at the math, do experiments yourself. For flat earth, it's intersectional because it crosses through all these different types of fields.